attending by phone today. We do have, I believe we have to call roll.
Yeah, I was going to say, since we're in the virtual environment, we will have to do a roll call vote. And I have a list of members if you want me to call out the names for you, since you're having to do it by phone and everything.
Yes, I would appreciate that. We will need to approve the minutes by roll.
Yeah,
today.
We'll have to do attendance by roll call first, and then we can go to the minutes. Yeah. So for attendance purposes, Amy. All right, great. Anne is here. We've been talking. Kathy.
Here.
Doug. Don't see Doug yet. Kate is here. Kim is here on the screen.
Here.
Liz is here. Mark, are you here? Nope. And Ray.
I'm here. I'm be off screen for a little bit, but then I'll come on.
No problem. All right, that's got it, Kate. If you want to move on to the minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we need to talk about the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on October 5th. Does anyone have anything to add to the minutes or change? Okay. So let's call roll for approval of the minutes from the meeting of October 5th.
You'll have to get a motion and a second first.
I see. Any motion?
Motion. Second.
Wonderful.
Okay, so that was a motion by Kathy and a second by Anne. So we'll do the roll call for the vote. Amy, do you approve?
Yes, I approve.
All right, and Anne, since you are one of them, the second, you're good. Kathy, do you approve?
I do.
Kate?
All right. So it looks
approve,
like I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. Okay. It's difficult by phone.
Yeah, I understand. Kim, do you approve?
Yeah.
Liz?
Yes.
And Ray?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, that's got it, Kate.
Thank you. Okay, so as far as old business, it doesn't look like we have anything on the agenda. If anyone has anything to add, please let us know now. Okay, we can move on to new business, which I understand is 2 presentations today. So we'll start with the strategic plan presentation.
And today we have with us Raphael to go over this presentation. And Raphael, I'll let you introduce yourself and all before you start in.
So used to Teams. Good afternoon, everyone. Raphael Baptiste. I'm the Strategy and Innovation Director for Buncombe County. And I was asked to hear a little about the strategic plan with you all. So give me 1 second to get this up and running. Right, I think I'm sharing the wrong piece of my screen. So give me 1 second here. All right. This is not today. There we go. There we go. I think this is working now. Thank you for your patience. as I remember how to use Zoom, because we never use Zoom here in Buncombe County. At least I never use Zoom. So, kind of what I wanted to talk about today briefly is what is a strategic plan? That's something people are always kind of curious about. Our strategic plan journey here in Buncombe County, and then talk a little bit about the Buncombe County strategic plan for 2025. So on your screen, you see the technical definition of a strategic plan, which is it's a local government's long-term vision for the future. It's a blueprint of the government's goals, plan projects to achieve those goals, and metrics to determine success. Sounds very fancy and sounds very technical. A strategic plan fundamentally is this, from my perspective and Buncombe County's perspective. Strategic plan says, this is where we are today, and this is where we want to go. This is what we're going to do to get there, and this is how we're going to know we have success. I always like to think about it from a race perspective. I decide I want to run a 5K. So what I do is I do a self-assessment and say, hey, here is my current situation. I can get off my couch and walk around a little bit, but I'm not a runner. And in 6 months, I want to run a 5K. That's what I want to achieve. Here is my training plan. Here are the things I am going to do to get there. And here's how I'm going to measure myself along the way to see in 6 months, am I going to look really good when I cross the finish line? Or is there going to be an ambulance carrying me out in a stretcher because I'm in such bad shape, right? That's the way I think about strategic planning. Where am I today? Where do I want to get to? What I'm going to do to get there? And how do I judge if I'm on track to do that? So it is July of 2019. I'm not here. I live in Durham, North Carolina, working for the city of Raleigh. So I wasn't here. But what I've been told is this is what we did, right? So what happened is the Buncombe County Board of County Commissioners, the ones who adopt the strategic plan, it is their plan on behalf of the community, said, we want a strategic plan. So they brought in a vendor and they did a lot of internal work and said, what are the major trends going on in the community? They call this the big sort. And out of the big sort came a series of community focus areas. These are the 4 areas that we as a board and we as a community want to focus on for the next 5 years. And then they also started developing some foundational focus areas. The community focus areas are what we want to achieve in the community. The foundational focus area is how Buncombe County as a government, as an employer, runs its operations. It's how we do our work. So we now know what our focus areas are. We go to the community and say, what does success look like? I'll get into the more specifics of each focus area in a moment, but one of them is an educated and capable community. So we go to the community and say, hey, community, help us understand what does an educated and capable community look like? Come 2025, what does success look like in that area? We did 13 community meetings and we utilized over 34 advisory boards and commissions to help sort this work out. So now we know what we want to focus on. We know what generally success looks like. So we go to our employees and say, what's possible? What can we actually achieve? And how do we achieve it? So we did that with our employees and we got that done. And then we packaged all that into a very pretty document, a really nice strategic plan. We have action plans associated. We develop some implementation plans. The board adopts in May of 2021. And we move forward with Buncombe County's first ever strategic plan. So Buncombe County, prior to this, never had an organizational strategic plan. A couple of isolated departments had their own plans, but we never had a strategic plan. So they created this house. I call it the house. And the house is our strategic plan. Everything in this document, everything in this visual, I guess is a better way of saying it, was adopted by the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners. So it has a vision and values for the community and organization. So the board said that our vision for Buncombe County is to have a caring community in harmony with this environment, where citizens succeed, thrive, and realize their potential. And we value respect, integrity, collaboration, honesty, and equity. And then we have 4 community focus areas that set long-term community goals. I'll just go and say, I don't like doing virtual presentations because I play off of people's energy. So it's really hard to me to know if I'm losing you or not. If you have questions, concerns, feel free to jump in and interrupt me as we go. So I can work off of your energy a little bit. So we have 4 community focus areas. I like it, Ray. I like it, Kathy. We will go into each of them. I'm actually gonna go into our dashboard in a moment, but we want to have an educated and capable community. We want environmental and energy stewardship. We want resident well-being, and we want a vibrant economy. And then we have 13 goals to speak to that. So for example, well, how do we get to an energy and environmental stewardship? Well, one thing we can do is reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So that's one of our goals. So there's 13 goals to support the 4 community focus areas. And then below them, we have 3 foundational focus areas, which are equity, operational excellence, and resources. Again, underpinning the foundation of the house. This is how we do our work. We do it from a lens of equity. We do it with excellence. We do it with appropriate and optimal resource allocation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment while I transition to our dashboard. So give me one moment while I do that. But while I'm in that transition, folks have any questions for me?
Hi, Raphael.
Yeah.
So the strategic, the plan was a 5-year plan.
Yes, sir.
Was it contextualized with longer range plans? That's A. And I have a B, which is what I don't see in there so far, is like population size, economy size. So since 2000, the population of Buncombe County has increased from 200,000 to 270 something thousand. 35% increase. Like, what's the goal? Like, is this contextualized in a goal that we want to be at 1 million, or we actually want to like cap it at 300,000 because that's how much we can sustain while maintaining environmental in parts of the environment? You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if it has a larger context framing that you have not offered yet.
Context. Okay, so here's what I would say. That context happens during the development phase, right? So if you actually go to buncombecounty.org to the strategic plan site, you can see all the research and all the briefs that are provided to the board. We provide them there, but they were given that information of here are population projections, right? So when they talk about, we want to make sure we have affordable housing near public transit and near jobs, that was thinking about kind of population and demographic changes, right? The reason why Educated and Capable talks about aging in place was looking at the demographics of an aging population. So that contextualization occurs in large part on the front end, helps frame what do we need to prioritize. But I would say in addition to that, it's important to think of a strategic plan as a sprint, right? If we were thinking about track and field and cross country, the strategic plan's track and field, right? We're doing the 400-yard sprints. After me, you're going to hear from Shannon, who works for the planning department, who does the comprehensive planning. They're the cross country team. They're doing the 10, 20 mile, the marathons, right? Now, one of the things that occurred for whatever reason, right, was that we did the strategic plan before the comprehensive plan. This time around, we now have a brand new adopted comprehensive plan. Next year, we'll be working with the board on a new strategic plan. So the comprehensive plan has looked at that context quite a bit and said, hey, here's where we're going to be. I want to say 2043. I might be wrong, but I'm going to say 2043. Here's where we're going to be as a community. Here are all the trends. And then what I do on the strategic plan side as I look for the next strategic plan is I work with the board and I work with the planning department and say, hey, here's the context of what 20, 30 years down the road looks like. Here's what the next 5 years looks like. Let's focus on these 5 years. The comprehensive plan gives you a very long list of things that the community should strive to do over a period of time. What the strategic plan does is it picks from that of here are the things we're going to focus on the next 5 years. And in addition to that, the comprehensive plan doesn't talk about, what school education should look like. It doesn't look at what quality of healthcare looks like. It looks more of where do we need to make sure we have schools? Where do we need to make sure we have healthcare facilities? Where do we need to make sure we have greenways and amenities to support that, right? So sometimes, a lot of times, we're also doing some of the stuff that a comprehensive plan doesn't cover. But again, we're more of a sprint informed by the larger, longer term context. Does that answer your question?
That was fabulous. It told me it was very informative, and also told me it was a dumb question, and I should wait for the comprehensive plan discussion. But it was really helpful. Thank
Not
you.
a dumb question at all. And quite frankly, in a lot of communities, they don't talk. Here, our goal moving forward is they talk better. Because Shannon can talk a little more about this. A comprehensive plan is legally required in order for you to have county zoning ordinances. A lot of places, they do a comprehensive plan so they can do a zoning ordinance. Buncombe County's new comprehensive plan is so we can plan for the future, not just so we have zoning. All right, so I got so excited about that conversation that I didn't share my screen. So here we go. Okay. Hopefully you all are seeing the strategic plan dashboard. You can always go to buncombe.clearpointstrategy.com to get there. But this is how we're going to show you what the strategic plan actually looks like. So we'll start with educating capable. So within educating capable, there are 4 goals, right? We want to increase kindergarten readiness, 3rd grade literacy, especially under underperforming students, career and college career readiness, and we want to protect older residents' ability to age in place. I like to call this the cradle to grave element of the strategic plan, because we're really talking about the lifespan of a Buncombe County resident, from when they're very little to when they're not so very little anymore. So you can actually play around here. This is public facing. You can see kind of how we're doing. You know, green is we're definitely going to hit, we're on track to hit all the things we said we're going to do. Yellow means there's a little bit, it's kind of like a stoplight, right? And red, a little more, slightly more problematic. And blue means we have some data issues that we're working through. Namely, we might not have our performance measures that's up to date. But these are all measurements of what departments are trying to do. If you click on this button, we have picked a performance measure for each goal. So for example, for increasing kindergarten readiness, right? It's a percent of children entering kindergarten at a proficient level based on standardized scores, right? So you can see kind of where we would like us to be. And if you look at FY23, so kind of looking at back in July, where we were for the last school year, not quite there. These performance measures are community indicators, so they're more about what's going on in the community. Our goal is that our efforts and y'all's decisions around grants and the investment strategies that are made there will drive us to get to these targets, right? But these are not really truly reflections of our work. They're reflections of outcomes that are influenced by our work and those of others. So I'm not going to go through each individual measure because there's quite a few. But you can see that. And then go to environmental stewardship. This one's really easy. There are 2 goals in environmental stewardship. We want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and we want to preserve farmland and environmentally sensitive tracts of land. And go to resident well-being, which is really about growing healthy communities. We want to increase public access to public transportation, namely public transit and paratransit, so mountain mobility. We want to expand and maintain cultural and recreational assets. We want to eliminate deaths as a result of substance abuse, and we want to reduce our jail population and enhance public safety as a result. And then we have vibrant economy, where we want to implement this one. We're green everywhere, so that's really nice. We want to implement land use strategies that encourage affordable housing near transportation and jobs. We want to increase the median household income to North Carolina benchmark. We want to increase total employment in the region's targeted industries. Additionally, Buncombe County has a racial equity action plan that's aligned with part of the strategic plan. It's got quite a bit of items. but it's really about related to equity. It's around communication and engagement, pathways to engagement, organizational policies and processes that ensure equity and accountability. We want to be a model of equity-informed decision-making. We want to create a thriving workforce within Buncombe County that ensures racial equity, and we want to improve quality life outcomes through our racial equity efforts. We don't include the foundational focus area on the dashboard because that's really the way we do our work. It's very operational, but we're making progress on those as well. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That is my presentation. So I am happy to answer any questions that y'all may have. Ray, you are muted if you're trying to speak.
I thought that was great, and I will kind of go into those individual sub goals or measurements, actually measurement outcomes. That can be helpful for some of our grant making.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Give you some vibes there. You did a good job.
Appreciate it.
Great. Does anyone else have anything for Raphael before we turn it over to Shannon to go into the comp plan? Okay, well, thank you, Raphael. We really do appreciate it. Now we will turn it over to Shannon, and I'll let her introduce herself. She's going to go through the comp plan with us.
Hello, can you all hear me? Okay, great.
Yeah.
I got a new headset, so just let me know if it starts getting weird. But I'm Shannon Capizzali. I'm one of the long-range planners with the Planning and Development Department at Buncombe County, and I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see. There we go. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the comprehensive plan and can get into how that works into the future strategic plan, since you just heard from Raphael. And then if you guys have questions, we can go through those. But this year, in May, we actually adopted the county's first long-range plan. This is a 20-year plan. So where a strategic plan might be a 5-year plan, this really is kind of the biggest type of long-range plan that a local government will usually undertake. And that's one of the reasons why we had a strategic plan before without a comp plan, is because we just had not had a comprehensive plan to draw from when we created that original strategic plan. So the planning process that we used to create this document, it was a 4-phase process that we started in the fall of 2021. And it included a lot of public engagement throughout every phase. So our goal was to bring in as many people as we could reach, talk to as many types of residents in all parts of the county, rural, urban. This is a plan for Buncombe County, so we were looking at places outside of the municipalities. City of Asheville, Town of Black Mountain, those are incorporated areas, so they have their own comprehensive plan. So this plan just covers the areas outside of the cities and towns. But the planning process, we established visions and goals that I'll talk to you a little bit about later, and then specific policies and actions that can be used to draw future strategic plans and other type of decision making from. So that's the basic breakdown of how we created the plan.
Actually,
And
I got a little confused.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. Did you say that the plan is to the exclusion of cities that have their own plans? Is that what you just said?
So Buncombe County does not have jurisdiction over the city of Asheville, Town of Black Mountain, Montreat, those type of places. They have their own local governments. They have their own planning departments, and many of them already have adopted comprehensive plans or are actually in the process of creating them. So when we created the county's comprehensive plan, we worked with them. We looked at their adopted plans. We talked to their planners and their local leaders, and we tried to collaborate in areas where we could. So for instance, on like infrastructure, on growth boundaries, things like that. But we do not have the ability to set goals inside of their jurisdiction, just like they don't have the ability to set policies or create actions for out in the county. Does that make sense?
What it literally makes sense, but it's a little surprising.
Okay.
Then the plan as a whole, to some extent, excludes some of the major population centers of the county, but it's a plan for the county. So I'm struggling here, but what you said made complete sense. It's not that it didn't. You were perfectly clear. I think it's my own surprise, actually. And
Okay.
trying then to how we interpret things if we're excluding, say, just city of Asheville, in addition to other municipalities, from like how we're utilizing this from our grant making perspective, which includes those municipalities, with a plan that in some ways, understanding what you said, that you work with them, in some way excludes them. Thank you, though. That was helpful for clarifying what's going on. So I really
Sure. So, and I don't know if this is helpful, but if you think about zoning, Buncombe County, we have our own zoning map, we have our own zoning ordinance. The city has their own separate zoning. So a comprehensive plan, it doesn't change zoning, but it's similar in that we can only regulate what we have jurisdiction over. But if you go through the plan, and I'm happy to show you some areas, it does talk about collaboration with other municipalities, because it's not just the cities, it's also the surrounding counties. So we talk to, we've got a lot of interaction points with Henderson County in Transylvania. And so we talked with planners over there about what are the opportunities and challenges as we're experiencing this growth over the next 20 years. It doesn't mean that we can create actions or policies in Henderson County. That is their job, but there are definitely places where we can make recommendations. And so that's the kind of stuff that you'll see in the comprehensive plan, are recommendations for how we work with those other agencies. And just let me know if you have other questions, and we can go through it too. But when we were creating this plan, we did a lot of public engagement, because the plans that are the most consistently implemented are the ones that are community driven and have a lot of support from local leaders. And the way that you get to that is to have really broad community involvement. So we did a lot of meetings, we did drop-ins, we did in-person and virtual, we had kind of self-paced options. We did over 95 different intercept events where county staff went out into the community and met people at their kids' schools, at the library, whatever it may be. 81 board and committee meetings, and those were public meetings between our resident steering committee, the planning board, and then ultimately the board of commissioners. And then we had over 5,200 responses across all of our phases. So we actually doubled the amount of input that was our target based on our consultant, what they had recommended in terms of how many people we reach. So we did more than what they were hoping that we would hit over those 4 phases. So this is a graphic that kind of explains how the comprehensive plan works with other types of planning and the work of the county. So the comprehensive plan is a long-range plan. It really sets the policy priorities, so big picture decision-making. And then from that, it helps to set the work priorities of future strategic plans. I don't know if you guys have seen a chart like this, but it really is a process that repeats. We do a comprehensive plan update about every 5 years, where we can look and see if there's been significant changes that merit some updates. And we try to coordinate those updates with the 5-year strategic plan as they are doing their updates to those documents. And from that planning process, that's how the county will set our funding priorities for budgeting and capital improvements. From there, you get your individual initiatives and projects and department work plans. And then at the end of all of that, after that 5-year period is up, that's where we are really looking back, measuring, evaluating, and making sure that as we go into the next round of updates, we are taking into account how well we did. Do you have any questions about that? So if you crack open the comprehensive plan, it's about 200 pages. We do have an executive summary, which is much more concise. So that's kind of a good intro document if you're not quite ready to sit down with the whole thing. But these are the chapters, general chapters or topic areas in the plan. So you've got growth, equity, and conservation, transportation and connectivity. I won't read them all, but those are all of the different areas that the plan looks at. And as we were generating this plan, we knew that equity was an important component, as well as regionalism, that kind of regional view in terms of how we collaborate, and sustainability. But instead of making those three things their own separate categories, we wanted them to act as a lens with which we looked at all of these other topic areas. So those three topics are kind of woven in each of the chapter topics. And the plan, the framework is broken out into 4 areas. So we have the overall vision themes, which I'll show you in just a minute. There's 5 of those. And then each topic area, like the housing or the transportation, each one of those has a specific goal statement for that topic. There's 35 total policies, and then there's actually 41 specific actions that lay out things that the county should be working on or recommend that we look at as things to work on through a strategic plan or through future initiatives. These are the vision themes that were adopted. It's strive to achieve equity, commit to sustainability, achieve livability and affordability, focus on conservation, and root efforts in community. So that's kind of big picture stuff. And to give you another example of how the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan might work together, environmental and energy stewardship is one of the topics in the strategic plan. So if you were going to be looking at that as you're making your grant decisions and wondering, what does the comprehensive plan have to do with that topic? A policy example from the comp plan would be policy 4, balancing development needs with environmental conservation and rural preservation. And then within that, there's going to be specific actions. So an action example would be considering requiring electric vehicle infrastructure or energy efficient features or other types of sustainable development approaches. And we can do that through our zoning ordinance. We can do it through some of our density incentives. So those are like really concrete things that we could change that would have an impact on meeting that environmental and energy stewardship goal through future development and retrofitting. This is our growth, equity, and conservation map. Some of you might have seen this, and this is one of the more exciting things to come out of the plan because we've never had a map like this. This is a future land use map. So it's not a zoning map. What this does is it identifies where the county wants to see the majority of future growth happening and where we want to see more of conservation. So there are different types of categories that you can see kind of down on the bottom. And in the comprehensive plan, all of those different categories or character areas are further explained. Like, what does it mean? What kind of development would be appropriate in each one of those areas? What does it look like when we say conservation? And eventually we hope to have kind of a character guide with some pictures coming out so that you have more of a visual understanding of what these designations mean. And if you kind of notice, a lot of the growth areas, they follow major transportation corridors. If we turned on water and sewer infrastructure, or if we turned on the topographic map, you would see that there is a strong correlation in many of those things with how these growth areas are drawn. So another thing that really informed our plan was the equity topic. So we have equity throughout the plan in different action and policy areas, but we also looked specifically at what the county was doing overall for equity. And the county had created a equity opportunity area map and a community index that could be used for different type of decision making. I'm wondering, are you all using that in your grant making? Are you guys familiar with that?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's
So,
fairly new.
yeah, they're not using it, but they did have a presentation last month
Okay.
on that map during their meeting. So they have seen it.
Okay. Okay. So I won't get too deep into it, but it was something created by the county. We chose to adopt it as part of the comprehensive plan so that it would be reflected in there. And there's specific land use type questions that we included in the comp plan so that we could take those into consideration when we're doing things like rezonings of land, development decisions. So that is something that we're starting to incorporate into our processes here in the planning department. I think this is the last, yep, this is the last slide. This is the small area plan map that you will also see inside of the plan. And this just identifies specific areas of the county that are either experiencing, tremendous growth pressures, or they have other features that are ripe for development or are at risk of development. They may be underdeveloped or on the verge of getting different types of infrastructure. So many, many different reasons why they could show up on this map. But there are areas where further planning, more detailed planning is recommended. Emma here, kind of sandwiched in between the city of Asheville, that is going to be one of the first small area plans that we start working on. And then in terms of the order of the rest of them, we don't have any set plans at the moment, but this will be something that the planning department is taking on over the next couple of years to start working on these corridor and small area plans. So that's all I have for you all. I'm happy to answer any questions or go back to any slides if you want more information.
Hi, this is Ray again. I have a question. And it's kind of, I don't have a good framing for it yet in my head, so I'm just going to stumble through it. You talked about how we see the plan is anticipating those population growth pressures in various ways. And to me, there's a kind of a chicken and egg aspect to that, which is to say, the county itself and municipalities can enact policies that impact a growth. Mm-hmm. So how are we doing that in anticipation rather than kind of being object? How are we becoming subject? That is, the growth could double, or it could be cut in half, depending on the policies enacted regionally. And I'm wondering, what the thinking is around that.
So we don't have any policies that say whether or if growth should be a certain amount. What the plan says is that our projections show that this is how much growth we're expecting over the next 20 years. I think it's like 90,000 people added to the area in Buncombe County. And based on that projected growth, here is how we want to see the area develop. So if we know 90,000 people are coming, here are the areas that we should be prioritizing infrastructure improvements. Here are the areas that are appropriate for new development of denser types of development. And here are the areas that we want to preserve either because of their rural character or environmentally sensitive features, floodplains, steep slopes, that kind of thing. Farmland protection obviously is also part of that. So this is not a restriction on growth in terms of how many people are allowed to come. There's nothing like that. It's what it's saying is we know what our constraints are, and we want to try to protect the places that are that we feel are most in need of protection.
Totally understand. Thank you. That was very clear. And I guess what's missing for me, and it's not a criticism of you or anybody really specifically, is do we want 90,000 people coming, or do we want more coming for economic growth, or do we want fewer coming? And asking people in Buncombe County that question, and then having policies that reflect that. I'm not advocating for anything in saying that. It's just, what's the purposefulness of our how intentional are we about growth? Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Well, if you all think of other questions, I'm always available. Anyone really in our planning department would be happy to answer more questions or help you get onto the comprehensive plan website if you want to look around. And yeah, we're always interested in talking to people about it. So thank you.
Shannon, that was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Shannon.
I think that, this is Kate. I think that we don't have any other new business right now, but if anyone has anything they'd like to put forward for discussion, it would be a good time now. Okay.
And,
it looks like we have one.
Hey,
Okay, go ahead.
before you wrap up, I did notice that Mark had joined, so I just want to capture his attendance for the minutes as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So Mark, are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm here. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty,
Okay.
but yes, thank you.
No problem. I've got you captured.
Thanks.
Angeline, what's queued up for our next meeting?
For the next meeting, we will be finalizing grant guidelines, application, evaluation, kicking off the new grant season. Woohoo! Fun times. All right. Well,
If no one has any further questions, I think our next meeting is December 7th at 1 o'clock, and I believe we'll be back in person at that time.
yes, we will be. Thank you all for your flexibility today. We have Rachel and Sarah on the road doing a conference and everything, and I had a couple of conflicts, so I appreciate all of you being flexible and willing to switch to online real quick. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Have a great day.
Meeting
Thank you.
adjourned. Have a good
Bye-bye.
day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.